Hello guys, welcome back. Now today, I'm going to talk about the St. Louis Blues in this video and how exactly they've gone from first in the Central Division to not even in the playoffs and then back in the playoffs somehow. To say that this season for the St. Louis Blues is a roller coaster would be pretty much understating it. Now the Blues are 43, 28, and 5 in that first wildcard spot right now. They have 6 games left, which I think they do have a game in hand on a couple of opponents that are around them. They're 8, 2, and 1 in this month of March, and they have a 6-game winning streak right now. And they are doing fantastic. And just like a month ago, just a month and a week ago, it was seeming like they were pretty much down and out for the game, and they just seemed like they had no really chance to make the playoffs, and they dug themselves out of that hole, and they still had enough time apparently to get themselves out of the hole, and they've done a fantastic job of not giving up hope and actually keep going. And yeah, that season, they were first in the Central at points. They went down, and then they weren't even in the playoffs anymore. At that point, I thought they were completely done at this point. I thought that they were pretty much done. I didn't think that they had the power in them and just the team in general to get back onto that and get into a playoff spot, but apparently they banded together and played fantastic. And it's really impressive when you think about how the Western Conference wildcard race has been for the longest time. It was the harder wildcard race to make it for the longest time, and it still is. And the Blues have somehow found a way to get past these teams and get past a lot of them and into the playoffs somehow, and are looking to do damage in the playoffs. Now, there's a few reasons for this, but I think the biggest reason is because of Jake Allen turning himself into a fantastic goalie tender after having the rough first half that he has. And the second half, to start it out, it wasn't great, but he started to get a little bit better, and now he's doing fantastic. I think in the last month, he is over 930 save percentage, something along those lines, but he's doing fantastic, and he's a part of a lot of these wins. Blues are giving him some starts now, and he's gotten into form, and he does this a lot. He usually struggles in the first half and then starts to be fantastic going into the second half, and he is just a playoff beast at that time. Going into the playoffs, he's usually one of the better goaltenders in the league when he's going into that, and he just has a mode in March. He just turns off a switch and turns on a switch and gets going, and he's done fantastic, especially with the Blues team. He's gotten a lot more starts, and he's playing a lot more games, and that's a big reason to why I think the Blues are winning a lot more games, and of course, he's done fantastic for them. To go in hand with that, I think the defense has been a lot better as of late. They played a lot better in front of Hutton than they have Allen, and that's starting to change. I think the defense is starting to be a lot more comfortable with Allen, and they're starting to play a lot better in front of them. That's been a main complaint about Blues fans for this longest time, is that when Allen's starting, he's not doing terrible, but the defense is just giving up a lot more chances than they would in front of Hutton, and that's a big complaint that the Blues fans have had. And over this last month, that's changed quite a bit. Defense has been a lot better. They've only had 2 games in this last month where they've allowed 4 or more goals. Both games, they allowed 4 and none more. One of them they won in overtime, and the one they lost 4-1. But that only 2 games allowing 4 or more, that's pretty good, especially when you have played 11 games as they have in this month. And overall, there's also low-scoring games in this little stretch for the St. Louis Blues. A lot of 1-goal games, a lot of 2-goal games for their opponents, and they're really shutting it down. Both Allen and the goaltenders, Hutton, has still been decent for them, and the defense has coincided with Allen, and they've both been fantastic, and both assets of their game defensively have been great in this last stretch. I think that's probably the biggest strength going into the playoffs now. And the offense has also been a lot better. They've had some key depth players stepping up in these last few weeks, and guys like Tarasenko have started to get hot as lately. They've been fantastic. Tarasenko has been on a tear lately, as he was kind of cold there in the first half, but a lot better in the second half. And of course, he is not up there in goals and not in the goal leader department, but he's still having a good season. Not quite Tarasenko level, but still good enough. And the star players up there are starting to finally produce. The guys like Schwartz, of course, and Schenn in the first half were basically carrying that team, and now they're starting to get a little bit cold, but some guys have replaced them kind of in that goal department, and a lot of guys in the depth department are scoring. And really, overall, they're one of the more complete teams right now. Just everything is really working for them right now, and I can't see really them going on a huge losing streak and missing the playoffs at this end of the season. I think that they'll keep winning. I think that they do have a little bit of a tough schedule, but at the same time, I think that they are hot enough to overcome that. I think it's pretty plausible, even though they're only in that first wildcard spot, and of course they're tied for that playoff spot. I think that it is pretty possible, and I think that it is most likely that they'll make the playoffs. Now, their remaining schedule includes, in these last 6 games that they have, they're at Vegas. I don't know when they play them, but they're against Vegas in Vegas, so it's going to be a tough opponent there. Vegas has kind of been cold lately, but they are still a good opponent there, and they can beat you on any given night. Next, you have at Arizona, and I think Arizona's been an interesting team because they've been hot lately, but I think most of that has come on the road. I don't know how good they're on at home, but I've noticed lately that on the road they're lethal. That might be a different story at home, so that might be an easier opponent here at home home than if they're facing them and in Scott Traded Center at least. You have versus Washington, which is going to be at home for them, and that's gonna be a tough opponent. Washington is still very good this season, and they can definitely beat you. They're going to be a tough opponent there. I think that's going to be a good game to watch too, but that'll be definitely a great game to watch if you're watching that. Very interesting as well. Then you have 2 games against Chicago versus Chicago, and then at Chicago. And Chicago has been a little bit better lately as this past week, but again, they're still a pretty beatable opponent this season. And in the last game, you have at Colorado, who Colorado has been fantastic home, and just throughout the whole season, they've been a little bit colder as of late at home, but still fantastic overall at home lately. And Colorado is definitely a tough opponent there in that last game, and that they could definitely lose that game. But I'd say that out of all these games, I'd say that they get at least 4 wins. They have 6 games left. I'd say a lot of these games are winnable games, especially how they've been playing lately. And the teams around them are Anaheim Ducks, the LA Kings, and the Colorado Avalanche. And that's an interesting group because I say that the St. Louis Blues are one of the better teams out of that just group in general. They can definitely keep this spot. I think that the Colorado Avalanche could overtake the Anaheim Ducks in that second wildcard spot, and it could definitely shift a lot. But I think the Blues will stay in that position of just making the playoffs. I think that will be a wildcard team. I think that they will stay in that position. I think that they'll continue to be hot throughout these next 6 games, and I think that they'll be able to secure themselves a playoff spot and probably be able to face Vegas or Nashville. Of course, Vegas is a lot better of an opponent for them, but I still think that, they could definitely make a case for themselves in the first round against Vegas there. And again, going from first in the Central down to not even in the playoffs and then back into the playoffs, it's just been a weird, wacky season for them. And to come back, I for one thought that they were completely done. I don't know about you guys, but I thought they were completely done after they had like 72 points. They're pretty much done, and a lot of teams were overpassing them. I thought they were done, but teams ahead of them started to be falling out. Dallas, and then they started to win games. And that's the big thing. They never really gave up, and they kept going back, and some key guys have started to get hot for them. That's really all it takes. And lots of people like to talk about teams controlling their destiny, and the Blues have certainly done that. They, in the last month, have tried their hardest, and they gotten the results that they needed, and a lot of key guys have stepped up, and that's really key for them. Some teams have not had that in the last few weeks, and they've fallen for it, and the Blues have done the right job in getting hot again in the right time. They can certainly do damage in the playoffs. I don't know if they'll get to round 2 or round 3, but I think that they can make a series against potentially Vegas very, very interesting. And even against Nashville, I still think that they would take them to 7. You never doubt playoff Jake Allen. That's what I've learned. But that's going to, guys. Like, subscribe, and not ring that bell. Comment down below what you think of the Blues right now, how far they could go in the playoffs, and just their team in general. I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.